Welcome on the 7:30 on Label Television. A new week today, Monday, December 18th, 2017 in Libreville. Before starting, here are the headlines.
The African National Congress, in power in South Africa since 1994, is expected to announce Monday the name of the successor of its controversial president, Jacob Zuma, after a marathon vote crucial for the future of the party and the country. An influential news portrait in Ethiopia, Addis Standard, has shared photos of students in Oromo's region's town of Nikentembe staging what has been described as a mass mourning and silent protest over recent civilian deaths.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome again on Label Television, your Pan-African channel. Some migrants in Libya have suffered from trauma and torture while they were traveling with a group rescued in the Mediterranean, according to a Doctor Without Borders team member. More reported by Georgina Mpiga.
Migrants were suffered, tortured, and traumatized in Libya, as we're told from Lucas Salarnio, who is a project coordinator with Doctors Without Borders, in short MSF. He continues to tell us that the migrants were very weak and malnourished because of the conditions in which they were held in Liberian detention centers. Lucia tells us how a lot of them had scabies, and some of them report of wounds and trauma of the tortures which they received in Libya.
Me, suffer me, do me many kind of things. Even many of my friends that go with me, many of them, they shoot them, then die.
The general conditions, a lot of people are very weak, very dizzy because of the malnourished, because of the condition of the detention centers.
Over 300 migrants were traveling, including migrants from Africa, the Middle East, and Asia, who were rescued off the Liberian coast by humanitarian ships and the Italian Navy. For example, there was a little girl of 10 years old who told us her story. She had extensive burns on her legs due to the boiling water which was poured upon her legs in an attempt of sexual violence. Therefore, these migrants were mainly from sub-Saharan countries fleeing poverty and conflict, trying to reach Europe for a better life.
It was certainly the time in South Africa for ANC to have the new leader. The vote was scheduled for Saturday, December 16, but it was postponed, and finally it was not until midnight that the delegates began to vote. The vote is perhaps the most pivotal moment for the ANC since its launch. Black majority rule under Nelson Mandela leadership 23 years ago. Watch the elements. The vote is perhaps the most pivotal moment for the ANC since its launch back majority rule under Nelson Mandela's leadership 23 years ago. The vote count from the African National Congress ANC delegates in power for the election of the successor of the highly contested South African President Jacob Zuma at their head began Monday at midday, the party said. We can now confirm that the vote count has started, the party wrote in a brief statement to the press, and the proclamation of the result is expected later on Monday. Whoever emerged at the helm of the African National Congress, a 105 years old liberation movement that dominates Africa's most industrialized economy, is likely to become the country's next president after election in 2019. A total of 4,776 delegates began casting their ballots in the early hours of Monday. The ANC said to select between Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa and Zuma's preferred candidate, his ex-wife and former cabinet minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. Ramaphosa and Dlamini-Zuma were the only candidates nominated for the ANC leadership at a conference in Johannesburg on Sunday night, and in a boost to Ramaphosa, could rule that officials from some provinces seen as supporting Dlamini-Zuma had been elected illegally and were barred from the conference. The rand currency gained after the news on Friday, extending its gain to more than 2% on Sunday. The winner had been expected to announce on Sunday, but long delays led to the vote being pushed back repeatedly. The race is still on the way. We leave South Africa and back to Nigeria, where a major Nigerian oil union said on Saturday it will launch a strike from Monday after talks aimed at resolving a dispute with domestic oil gas company reached a deadlock. Story in this element by Evan Bala.
The Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, whose members mainly work in the upstream oil industry, is clashing with the companies over the layoff of union members. The strike could hit Nigeria's oil production and dent exports as they did in December last year during the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association action against ExxonMobil. Note that the dispute arose after domestic oil and gas companies and marginal field operators laid off union members. Marginal fields refer to discoveries made by oil majors during exploration of larger acreage but which have been left for others to develop. The Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria has asked the government to force the management of those companies to record their laid-off workers. The union said the firms ordered mass layoffs but has not given figures. Oil output from Nigeria, Africa's largest crude exporter, has been volatile over the past 2 years due to militant attacks, pipeline theft and sabotage, and industrial action.
Only days after Ethiopian troops shot and killed 16 unarmed Oromo civilians in Chilenko town in Oromia, East Harare zone, a fresh but a tit for that violence has left several dozens of dead across the respective states. The Ethiopian government said on Monday it was investigating the violent accident in Hawgudina and Daralube districts, the latest round of violence in the region hit by the deadly unrest in 2015-2016. Adisho Regasaki Tesa, regional spokesman, said in a statement on Monday that 29 ethnic Oromos were being killed between December 14 and 17 by ethnic Somali attackers in Hawgudina. The violence prompted revenge attacks in Daralube, which resulted in the killing of 32 ethnic Somalis, he added. The unit is working to bring the perpetrators to justice, Adisho wrote on Facebook page. It was not immediately clear what was the cause of the latest violence, but it came after 18 Oromos were killed on Tuesday by soldiers trying to disperse a protesting crowd in Oromia's Chilenko town, Reuters News Agency reported. In a statement, the Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn denounced the latest clashes and expressed his deepest condolences to the families of victims. Authorities later scrapped the land scheme, but anti-government protests that began in Oromia and spread in Amara region and elsewhere flared again over political and human rights, as well as the continued detention of opposition demonstrators. Also protests, but small one now in Gabon, where 2 National Geographic magazine reporters have been stabbed in Libreville, the capital city of Gabon, on Saturday 16, 2017 in a popular market for tourists called Marché Artisanal. The Defense Minister, Etienne Massar, says the men have been taken to hospital while the terrorist was arrested just right on the spot.
My announcement today marks the beginning of a new approach to conflict between Israel and the Palestinians. In 1995, Congress adopted the Jerusalem Embassy Act, urging the federal government to relocate the American embassy to Jerusalem and to recognize that that city, and so importantly, is Israel's capital.
This statement of the American President Donald Trump recognizing Jerusalem as the capital city of Israel has not left Muslims around the world quiet. In Libreville, Gabon in particular, tensions are noticeable. As a matter of fact, 2 National Geographic magazine reporters have been wounded in a knife attack in Gabon's capital, apparently committed in retribution for the speech regarded as U.S. attacks against Muslims. The Danish nationals were stabbed while shopping in a popular tourist area on Saturday. Defense Minister Etienne Massar said, according to the first testimonies, at the scene, the tourist, a 53-year-old Nigerian man, shouted Allahu Akbar during the attack. Mr. Massad said the man has lived in Gabon for 19 years, adding, in his first statement, he said he acted in retaliation for U.S. attacks against Muslims and America's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. The 2 victims were sent to a hospital in the capital, Libreville, one in a serious condition.
In Senegal, the air traffic controllers shut down the newly inaugurated airport in the capital city, Dakar, saying they were striking to protect travelers after they received inadequate trainings before the facility opened this month. Get the detail in this report.
The government says the new $680 million airport, which opened on December 7, will help make Senegal a transport hub in West Africa and boost the country's tourism sector. The head of the company that manages the airport said at least 5,000 passengers had been affected and the strike action was bad for the airport for the country's image. But the president of the union representing the airport's air traffic controllers, Mam Alioune Sene, said his members had called a 24-hour strike for people's security. Head of Turkish-Senegalese consortium Limak Aid Souma, Xavier Mary, said the strike is not a good image for the country.
With air traffic interrupted, it means some 30 flights won't come here today. That's around 5,000 passengers. So, of course, it's an important loss for the airport. But first and foremost, it's an incredible inconvenience for passengers and for the airline. So, of course, we deploy this situation since it presents a bad image of Senegal.
The union is demanding increased stipends for employees' transport to the airport, which lies some 45 kilometers outside the city center. President of the Air Traffic Controllers Union, Mam Alioune, said they are doing the maximum with the equipment, adding that the danger is still there.
On the training side, controllers whose responsibility is to ensure air security have already been trained at college and are capable. But it's not enough. We need equipment in the control tower to help us do our job correctly. In theirs, there is new, latest generation equipment that has been installed.
The airport is Senegal's busiest and the strike is likely to affect scheduled flights by international carriers, including Air France and Ethiopian Airlines.
We're back in South Africa, where to celebrate the Day of Reconciliation. In South Africa, it's about over 1,000 Cape Town residents who participate in a race for unity on Saturday morning. Let's go back to this event with a report by Evan Bala.
The event featured a 10-kilometer run and a 4.2-kilometer walk. Most of the participants are residents from local neighborhoods. Runners of different colors who came from a different cultural background choose to be part of the long-distance running to increase their understanding of different cultures they respectively represent. The annual Race for Unity is to celebrate the Day of Reconciliation. Like many other celebratory events of the day, it has become more and more popular over the years.
It's a day where black and white, the citizens of South Africa, come together to, unite, after all the atrocities that happens against the black majority. So it's a good day, it's a great day, it's a step forward for South Africa.
The Day of Reconciliation was officially launched by the new South African government in 1994 in hope to bring all races together to bury the hardships from the apartheid period and face the future together in harmony.
In preparation to the 2018 Africa Cup of Nations of Handball, which will be held in Libreville, Gabon, the Panthères du Gabon played a friendly game against Libreville Handball. Despite a 28-21 victory, the national team should make some adjustments to be more fit up for the coming competition play at home next year. Gauthier Perciano.
It's a tough victory for Jackson's men. For the Panthères du Gabon, winning a victory over the opponent has been no easy matter. Yet, they start the game with a lot of vigor, then they managed to keep up pace throughout the first period. Quickly, Gabon leads by 3-0. As real dominators, the group led by Junior Ange Obam increases its lead over the game, even up to a 4-goal gap. However, the players of Estuary selection do not let their opponent impose the game style and somehow take the challenge proposed to them by the host of the Africa Cup of Nations. At the break, the Reds are led by only 4 goals, exactly 15-11 in favor of Gabon. Once back for the second period, just like in the first one, the Gabonese selection takes control of the game again. Their lead by 3 goals even increases up to 9. George Sami Kumba's men do not let themselves go. They react. Goals by goals, they keep up returning to equality. A funny reminder of Gabon's performance at the last AFCON. Despite their remarkable performance, the players of Estuary can't manage to maintain the equality and end up losing with a 7-goal gap. Gabon wins a 28-21 victory. Let's remember that 30 days from now, the Panthères du Gabon will be playing an African Cup of Nations at home. So, they must make adjustments and imperatively review the game style so as not to imitate the poor performance of their football counterparts at the last continental competition of the same name, mainly won by the indomitable Lions of Cameroon.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for choosing Label Television to inform you. Please stay tuned for the upcoming news in French. We'll be back tomorrow, same place, same channel, same hour. Good night.